What's going on, guys? Patrick here. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be looking at Bitcoin and some specific altcoins which look like they are ready for a massive explosion. We're going to be doing the technical analysis, all of those, and covering tons of news. So make sure you guys stay tuned all the way until the end. But before we get started with that, let's dive into some trade breakdowns. Some of the trades that myself and the group were in recently. One of them was Chainlink. Now, Chainlink we entered exactly during this candle. This was on the 1st of August 2020, so just a few days ago. The reasoning behind this, taking out all the other factors, just looking at the EMA ribbon to give you guys a clean breakdown. Look at the support we found. We traded obviously well above earlier. We drew this pattern. We had the breakout, came all the way up, came down to test the daily EMA ribbon, found support here, started moving back to the upside. We jumped in around this level. From there, the rest was history. Just over here, if you had a trailing stop loss or whatever, upwards profit could have been 26%. Obviously, we sold in targets on our way up there, but that was a fantastic trade. Another one we had just yesterday was for Bitcoin, just a few hours ago. This actually, we came in during this green candle right here, which was midnight on August, which was midnight just a few hours ago, at least my time. Reasoning for here as well, we were kind of trading in a very annoying range. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. However, we did have that break above the EMA ribbon, right? This we entered, we were cautious about it. We wanted to keep an eye out on it, retested the EMA ribbon. It had the bullish flip. So after that, it was green light, and then boom, we had that move to the upside as well. Again, top profit, if you were using a trailing stop loss, was up to 3.23%. With a 10x leverage, that's a 30% trade. With a 5x leverage, that's a 15% trade. And like with Chainlink, we sold in pieces on our way there in order to secure profit, in order to decrease our risk. But these two, very easy, very straightforward trades that anybody, if you were looking at the charts, could have profited from, and a lot of you guys did. So if you feel like you're missing out on these trades, you feel like you want to get involved, you want to take the opportunities in this market, then make sure you check out the first link down below in the description for the cryptocurrency trade alert group. I post every single one of the trades that myself and my expert team enters in this group. So if you're a complete beginner, if you don't have time to do technical analysis, or you don't know how to do technical analysis, you can copy our exact trades, every single one of our altcoin trades, every single one of our leverage trades. You can join the #1 community in the space. And as always, we have a 2-week free trial. So for 14 days, for the next 14 days, for the next 2 weeks, you can see every single trade that myself and my expert team enters completely free. And if for some reason you don't like it, it's not for you, no questions asked, you can simply cancel and you will avoid getting charged. It's as simple as that. Again, you can see every trade we have for the next 2 weeks to see what it's like, see behind the scenes, see behind the curtain of what goes on in a successful trader's trades. Now let's go back into Bitcoin. So a few things I did want to highlight. First of all, I basically just extended this trend line, just completely straight extended it. We had support multiple times before, which we talked about in a previous video. Again, the same thing happened over here. Funny enough, we did enter a short at one point. It hit one of our targets on the way down. Since then, obviously it closed and we switched to a long over here. So that was one smaller trade with smaller profit that we secured on the short potential. And the reason for that, especially when you go to the 4 hours, you guys will see this, is a lot of people were talking about this potential head and shoulders forming like this. Now, had this worked, the downside target would have been in the $10,000, right? It would be somewhere in this range. However, you don't want to trade it. You want to make sure you're cautious on when you're entering, where exactly you're looking at. And if this were to hold down, if you were going to hold it down to 10,500, you need to wait for that break confirmation. So we would have seen a candle come down here, one red candle down here, and it would continue its way down. That confirmation would have been the perfect point to enter for that trade. But going back to the daily time, the 1 hour time frame, you see how the EMA ribbon here gets really tight together. We see a lot of breaks above and below, and you guys have heard me talk about this multiple times. That's the most dangerous part to trade. That's when there's no clear trend right now. That's when, if you're a beginner, you shouldn't be trading. There's no clear trend. You want to wait to identify a better trend. Again, it broke above, shortly after it broke below, then it broke above again. You see the EMA ribbon is super tight together. Those are the times where there's no clear direction. Since then, we did actually have a little bit of an open. We found the resistance. So then this break above here, to me, was a very bullish sign in the short term. And now we're looking like we're going to open up the EMA ribbon a little bit as well, which is going to look more like this, which is a lot better for us to identify a trend. Now keep in mind the 1 hour time frame, already quite a gap between the price and the EMA ribbon, so I would not be surprised if we come back down to retest before continuing up, so make sure you keep an eye out on that. 4 hours looking a little bit better. The EMA ribbon is a lot wider here. Very clear. We had support number 1 down here with the wicks, obviously with our support that we mentioned here. We had the support we mentioned here. Again, perfect wick. Look at this perfect wick that came down to the bottom of the support on the EMA ribbon, rejected off that, bounced off the support, and is now continuing on its way up. So as of right now, if we keep the 4 hour above the EMA ribbon and the daily specifically above the EMA ribbon, the 1 hour is going to fluctuate a little more. But if this 4 hour and the daily stays above the EMA ribbon, doesn't break below, overall, very, very bullish sign. Daily time frame one that's a little more complicated. The reason I say it's a little more complicated because naturally we had this one wick that came down, which we were not surprised. If you're watching the channel, we were not surprised at all for this huge drop that came in where everybody else were surprised. The gap between the price and the EMA ribbon was way too big for a long time, and we expected to see it come down to retest it at some point. Did we think it was going to be a crazy one candle? No. However, we expected it to come down and retest it at some point anyways, and that's exactly what this did. But right now, price again, it's a very big gap between the price and the EMA ribbon. Doesn't usually stay this way for very long, so that's one of the most important things that I think we're going to keep an eye out on. But you can see the trend line still holding very well. The support's still holding very well. We need to keep an eye. If we break below this support, that could be the catalyst at least for us to come back down, maybe fill that CME futures gap we talked about, maybe just have a retest of the bottom here of the EMA ribbon. We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. But overall, Bitcoin, I'm very happy with it. You guys see the green light in the background? Green light for profit, green light for money. Because the last few days, after what was a slower week for trading that I showed you guys before, I told you guys the last week was very difficult, very slow to trade. The start of this week has been absolutely phenomenal. Now, this is big news as well. Bitcoin, thanks to Turkey obviously having hyperinflation, which is not a good thing whatsoever. Bitcoin, however, is maintaining its price, and it's actually hit an all-time high compared to the currency there. Do we expect that to happen with the Bitcoin price and the US price soon? I do think so. Obviously, the US is not going through hyperinflation. I don't expect it to go through hyperinflation. So we're going to talk about inflation more towards the end of the video because there is a big news headline that did come out. But this is, again, a sign. I think it's going to happen relatively soon, the new all-time high. I'm not sure if it's going to be by the end of this year, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know down below in the comments down below. Let me know if you think that Bitcoin will hit a new all-time high. It's going to break $20,000 in the year 2020. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, but let's move into some other altcoins because there's a lot to cover. Ethereum. Thanks to my man DaVinci J15. I know you watched some of the videos, so if you're here, say hi down below. This is from you. Obviously, I've mentioned the supports and resistances of Ethereum before, but the W pattern that you called out, absolutely phenomenal. I am currently in an Ethereum trade. Hopefully that one does play out. I don't want to talk about it too much on here because that's obviously saved for our group. It has not hit any targets yet. We just entered it, so I am going to stay pretty quiet about that one. But the W pattern came in here that DaVinci talked about on the monthly time frame, a bigger time frame. These patterns are obviously worth a lot more and they tend to lead to bigger moves. So we saw the first resistance come in at this level. We talked about it. Some of you guys might have entered the trades. We had Ethereum trades for the last, several weeks. We've had Ethereum trades because of how good things have looked. Around $294, $295. It broke above that resistance. The next resistance up here. You guys can see why, right? It was support down here. It looked like resistance over here right at the beginning, but still around $395, $100 above this one was another strong resistance. So that was one we need to watch out for. This one obviously acted as resistance here, acted as support here. So it's another clear line. The reasoning for these support and resistances were very, very clear. But this W leading us into this big move and a break above this section, well, there's a lot of room to move for Ethereum then. Ethereum, one that we like to use the US dollar on because it is big, has a lot of volume there. But yeah, going back to the all-time high just on here would be a 250% move if you haven't already capitalized from the moves that we've had down here. Because down here to where we are right now, that was already a 200% move. Even just this resistance breakout to the next resistance is a 34% move. A ton of opportunities are being presented to us right now with a lot of different cryptocurrencies. And Ethereum, one I'm going to be keeping a I'm going to be keeping an eye out on very strictly to see how this does play out. Currently, it tried to break above. We see the wick. It found the resistance, obviously, came back down perfectly at the resistance right now. We want to see Ethereum break to the upside. And that with the DeFi holdings, obviously Ethereum holdings are increasing, right? The amount of Ethereum that's being held is increasing, which means it's not going to be in circulation. Supply is going down. Demand might be going up or even staying the same. That would lead to price going up. Basic economics. And XRP, another one that we mentioned very recently. Again, I think it was the last video. One thing we can look at over here, we talked about the fact that they were making lower highs over and over again. Still, as of right now, a lower high. Not necessarily bullish just yet. If it does just make a lower high, bearish obviously to come back down, which it has done multiple times before. Every time it had this huge run up, people got excited. It was just another lower high and it came crashing back down. So it could happen that we crash back down with XRP. We need to see a higher high at this point, not to break the cycle of the lower highs. We need to start seeing the higher highs, but a ton of opportunities are still out there for altcoins. Bitcoin's obviously going to be the big daddy, right? The one that's going to do very well. It's going to be the main one, the one that everyone looks at in terms of price. But altcoins can have some very significant gains that a lot of people are going to miss out on if they do not look at it. Ethereum is huge. It's a huge altcoin, right? It has a huge market cap compared to a majority of other altcoins. And it's seeing potentials of 200, 100, 250% returns. Bitcoin, again, even if it just goes back to the all-time high, you almost double your money. And a lot of the smaller altcoins are going to provide a ton of opportunities as well. But before we end off the video, this is kind of crazy. So the Fed is expected to make a major commitment to ramping up inflation soon. I don't hear anyone talk about this because, to be fair, nobody knows what inflation is. And if they do know what it is, they don't really care about it because they don't do anything about it anyways. It's such a small percentage on the year to year. It doesn't look like much. Over decades, it causes a major shock to anybody's buying power. The buying power somebody has over decades completely decreases a huge amount, even if it's just a 2% inflation. So they're thinking of moving it from 2% up to 4%, which is going to, it's going to double it. And people on the day-to-day aren't going to notice it. But over a decade, over 2, over 3 decades, by the time they save money in their, somebody that's 30 puts money in their savings account now, accumulates money for when they retire. By the time they get there at a 4% inflation, their buying power is going to have gone to shit. It's going to be bad. Make sure if you're watching this video, I'm hoping you guys have kept up with inflation. You know how inflation works. You know how it can affect you. And so you know why we have to diversify into different investments that can make up for that inflation first. Investments like, gold, stocks, and properties. That's one that I'm big on and I'm looking at specifically right now. Properties, so that way we can make up for inflation and make a ton of money on top of it as well, because holding money in the bank, it's just not cutting it. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know if you guys did down below in the comments, and make sure to leave a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you are subscribed and you have your notifications turned on as well, so you can check back in to see every update we have on the Bitcoin price. We've been absolutely killing it with the predictions for Bitcoin, with the analysis for Bitcoin, and we're going to continue to do so for all the future videos. So make sure you guys check back in on Friday for another video.